In the brutal winter of 1897, the Dakota Territory was gripped by a cold so fierce it felt like the land itself had turned against its people. Blizzards howled without mercy, piling snowdrifts higher than a man's head, and the earth hardened into an unbreakable shield that defied every tool. It was in this unforgiving freeze that Samuel Harlan, a weathered farmer of 43, faced the toughest challenge of his life. Samuel had spent his days battling the prairie soil on the homestead his father had wrested from the wilderness years before. The dirt could be generous in wet seasons, but drought had stalked them relentlessly lately, turning promise into dust. His beloved wife, Clara, had slipped away the spring prior, leaving him with mounting debts that choked his every hope like thorns in barren ground. The bank had seized his cattle, and whispers of foreclosure hung over his farm like storm clouds. So when the town physician, Dr. Ellis, cornered him in the general store that bleak February dawn with an odd request, Samuel listened, even as dread twisted in his gut. "I realize this isn't your usual line of work, Samuel," the doctor murmured, fiddling with his thin glasses amid the shelves of dry goods. "But I'm in a bind, and you're one of the steadiest souls I know for a task this sensitive." Samuel scuffed his boot against the wooden floor, bracing for what came next. "A young lady was brought in yesterday by some wanderers passing through. They spotted her crumpled on the trail, maybe 10 miles south. By the time she reached me, she seemed gone. No heartbeat I could feel, no rise in her chest, chilled straight through." Dr. Ellis doffed his hat, smoothing his sparse silver hair. "The folks who found her couldn't linger. They had their own hardships and miles to cover. They tossed me a few coins for a proper send-off, but the soil's like iron. And our regular digger's down with his joints flaring up bad." Samuel pieced it together then. Why him of all people? His farm-hardened arms and back could wrestle the frozen ground better than most, yet the whole affair gnawed at him. "Doc," he said measuredly, "if she's been like that since yesterday, couldn't we hold off till thaw sets in come spring?" The doctor shifted uneasily. "That's the rub, Samuel. Something's off about it all. Those travelers were jumpy, itching to bolt, and the woman, she doesn't show marks of sickness or harm, just still as stone." Samuel eyed the doctor's lined face. This man had ushered in generations and eased the final breaths of many. If he sensed trouble, it was real. "The work would pay," Samuel conceded softly, "and I could use it. Reckon I can handle the dig in this mess." "I figured as much," Dr. Ellis replied, relief washing over him. "But Samuel, if anything strikes you as peculiar, anything at all, you fetch me straight away. Swear it." Samuel gave a nod, though he couldn't fathom what might top the strangeness already afoot. The doctor guided him to a back chamber in his practice, where the woman rested beneath a crisp sheet on a plain plank table. As he drew it aside, Samuel's breath caught sharp. She was a vision that stirred forgotten dreams, with hair like ripened corn cascading over the cushion, her features calm in a way that whispered of eternal rest. Her complexion, ghostly yet somehow vital, didn't match the dead he'd known. She appeared more deeply slumbering than departed. "How old, you think?" Samuel whispered. "Tough to say, perhaps mid-20s, or 30 at most. No papers, no possessions, save her garments." Dr. Ellis draped the sheet back. "The wanderers claimed no knowledge of her name." Samuel geared up the rest of the morning, picking a serene corner in the hillside burial ground, under a sturdy maple that promised cool relief. In summer's heat, the dirt resisted like forged steel, but Samuel's grit, honed from endless tilling, prevailed. He kindled a modest blaze nearby, letting flames coax the frost away layer by layer. By dusk's approach, he'd clawed down nearly 2 feet, his fingers aching through the leather despite the effort. Snow swirled in soft veils, and the fading light urged him on. He trudged back to the doctor's to retrieve her. They encased her in a modest cedar box from the woodworker down the lane, then bore it through the hushed lanes. Samuel's thoughts drifted to Clara's farewell, how this ritual echoed yet diverged in its eerie quiet. At the sight, he eased the box into the shallow pitted suffice till dawn for deeper work, but a nagging pull stayed his shovel. Maybe the lantern's dance on the wood, or the day's persistent unease. Kneeling, he pried the lid for one final glance. She lay unchanged, palms crossed in repose. Yet closer inspection stole his air. Was her pallor warming, or his eyes playing tricks? He inched nearer, and there a faint flutter under her lids, like dreams stirring. Samuel froze, scarcely breathing. Then her eyes parted, revealing depths of sapphire that locked on him with bewilderment, laced in thanks, jolting his pulse. "Where?" she breathed, faint as a sigh in the chill. Safe, Samuel assured, though doubt lingered. This is Willow Creek. What do you recall? She shifted to rise. He steadied her, bundling his wool jacket around her trembling form. Life's spark in her shivers heartened him. The freeze. Collapsing, she murmured, voices saying I'd. But that can't be. She trailed, surveying the graves, the yawning hole, horror dawning. Were you, entombing me? Samuel nodded grimly. Yes, Miss Though. I'm thankful beyond words you roused in time. A faint smile broke through her shock, thawing the night like dawn's first ray. I'm Rebecca Lawson, she said. How did I get here? As he aided her stand, she proved firm-footed, despite the haze. Nomads hauled you to the dock yesterday. Found you roadside. All figured you'd crossed over. She pondered. I was journeying solo to Kin out west when my mount spooked. In the storm. Must have staggered till I dropped. At the town's edge, she confessed. I've nothing now, no ride, no gear. My family's likely fretting. Without pause, Samuel offered. Rest at my spread, till you're mended and sorted. It's humble, but cozy, and truth be told, the quiet's been heavy on me. She halted, astonished. You barely know me. Enough to see your good folk down on luck, he countered softly. Like plenty around here. In the days that followed, Rebecca revealed her true colors, sharp-minded, compassionate, infusing Samuel's dim home with a glow absent since Clara. She took to chores with vigor, dismissing his fussing, and nights by the hearth wove tales of their paths. A former schoolmistress, she cherished knowledge, distilling wisdom into everyday words. Samuel opened up about his farm's woes, the void Clara left, the dread of ruin. One stormy eve, as flakes blanketed the panes, Rebecca mused, I've pondered my brush with the end, how it led here. Samuel glanced up, and perhaps it was fated, the peril, but this crossing of ways. The bleakest trials sometimes unlock the brightest joys. As frost yielded to bloom, their bond deepened into what neither sought but both craved. She shared clever ways to nurture the land. He gave her anchor and alliance. One crisp April morn, amid the budding plot, Samuel watched her chuckle at a wandering hen, a peace flooding him he'd deemed lost. Rebecca, he said, laying aside his tool, a question's been brewing. She turned, soil-streaked and radiant. Yes, would you make this your home for good? Not as guest, but my partner, my wife. Her grin outshone the sun. Samuel Harlan, I've been waiting for those words. They wed that summer, in the modest chapel where he'd bid Clara adieu. The burial ground, once nearly her tomb, now bloomed with their sown petals, the maple shading their joyful gathering. In later years, when asked of meeting his love, Samuel would reflect, I was tasked to lay her to earth. But she chose life instead. Rebecca would chime, smiling, the heart's deepest winters can birth the warmest springs. Their homestead grew famed as a haven for wayfarers, offering sustenance and shelter, born from their own trials with strangers' grace. The fields flourished under shared toil, yielding a family of 5 who learned that fortune often hides in fear's shadow. On serene snowy nights, by the crackling fire, Samuel and Rebecca would ponder love's sly arrivals, how it thrives when we dare to embrace the unknown, turning despair into enduring hope. And in that spirit, dear listener, remember, even in your coldest hour, when all seems buried, awakening awaits. Hold fast, your story's revival might be just one brave glance away, leading to bonds that redefine forever.